Morning. Right, are we on? There we go. Right. Morning, everybody. Here we go. Yes, I was invisible. It's all about the anticipation, though, isn't it? It was getting a bit late, so I just thought I really need to make a cup of coffee, right? And it's like, 5 minutes past, so I thought I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just run the live and walk off and make a cup of coffee and just leave everybody guessing, looking at an empty chair, what's going to happen next. So, hi Tanmay, hi Des, hi Zed, hello Sean. Right. Well, casual, yeah. Just run the stream with an empty chair for people to look at. It's got a bit of conversation going, hasn't it? So, the live template, the live looping. So, this weekend, I've been desperately trying to get the Logic Live to work. But I'm actually going to have to get into some MIDI script writing, which I'm not looking forward to. Because the Logic board, basically, there's a script that's already there in Ableton that they've done for it, but it's hardwired to basically channels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 to record on and off. So what I'm going to have to do is reallocate those numbers somehow. So I'm going to have to find the script and find out the bit of code, how to change it. Something like that. I've done it before years ago. So I'll probably do that at some point, see how it goes. And then it might be that I cut the template down to 6 instruments, which would be logical, wouldn't it? Because it doesn't seem that you can move it on. It seems to be just stuck with 6 instruments. So we'll see. Something might, there'll be a workaround. So I'll be doing that. But apart from that, there's been a few kind of little updates and things. And I've been experimenting with the new SSL channel strip, which is great. So that's been another thing. I don't know if you know this, but SSL make their own, like, the plugins, like, in software. And they do put, like, deals on now and then, a bit like Plugin Alliance, so you can pick stuff up for really cheap. And I picked up, like, the SSL channel strip and, like, the bus compressor for $49, right? This was, like, a year ago. And but it wasn't M1, and it's M1 now, which is really good. And it sounds absolutely fabulous. But now, if you buy it, right, unless it's on a deal for $49, if you buy it, it's like $470 for like 2 plugins. It's just insane money for something that, for something that's a picture, as I say. I have recorded on a proper SSL, but it was so a long time ago. It was such a long time ago, I couldn't tell you what the sound like. Yeah, well, when I remember, Tanmay, I tend to do a little bit of meditation, which is focusing on one thing and breathing, isn't it? But I always remember very young when I was doing classical guitar, my teacher saying to me, "You need to breathe or you're going to die," when I was playing. And I'll have been, like, at the time, I'll have been holding my breath and sticking my tongue out. Like that when I was playing. As you do when you're a kid. So I had to practice out of that. But I do remember not breathing, and then being told to breathe, and then actually having to be quite conscious for a while. of remembering to breathe. But you know, you know, when you're a kid, you're like this. I'll have been like this. And then I'll have been, how fast can I do that bit? There's no sound here. I'll just tune this. Right, okay, what have we got? So the template's the same, just a quick run through of the instruments. Let's have a look. So we've got obviously EXO's doing the drums, and I've got, that's the bass. Actually, I am using an archetype plugin here with Thomas's, but everything's switched off and I'm only using it to pitch stuff down. So I'm only using it for the transpose. I was originally using the Cortex for that, but it just means I don't have to switch it on. If I do it this way, Thomas's thing, energy bass. But, so I've just got a bit using a bass preset there, just something quick that I can tweak as I go. And then the other thing I've got is this bass mint. So if I switch this off, this is what you get without it. Which is a guitar being a bass, and then this gives it more of a bass vibe. So I get more of a bit more low end. So it's just yeah, it just like adds harmonics, and you've got like different flavors of harmonics you can add with this. So that's that. And then I've got the guitar bass preset. So we've got 2 of Thomas's plugins on this one. Cool, eh? Yeah, I love the low end on this. Now, what I have done, right, is I've switched the gates off on Thomas's plugin, and I'm using one gate at the front end that's quite aggressive, and I'm using the cock blocker. So actually, I use this as a noise gate actually on my mic. The cock blocker. I'm not sure what a cock blocker is, but it looks mad, and it's quite good as a gate. So I've got that, yeah, pitch shifted a whole octave, but this guitar's right, so, and then on this one, we've got the bass, which is pitch shifted down, and then I've got another 2 guitars, which are different presets. And I've just got a little bit of the high end rolled off on both of them. And just for speed, I've done it that way. I mean, you can do it on the plugin, but because I've got 3 things going at once, it's just easier to do it that way. And then I've got this octavator. So that's just nasty, isn't it? And then it's sort of like how I'd think about synths, really. Pads. And then what else have we got? I've got this, like, found this preset. I thought this sounded like New Order. So anyway, that's that. What else? Clean delay. With the option to stick some reverb on. Just needs a bit, doesn't it? What else have we got? Sounds like a load of stuff here. It's got the usual dirty, clean sound. And a bit of reverb. So I like that preset, Twisted it's called. It's great, you can just pick presets, don't you? And then that's just low gain, high gain. So that's quite very gnarly, as you'd say. What's this? I recently purchased a wrap thing. It makes my playing less sloppy. Is this like a wrap that goes round here? A fret wrap. Ah, right. I use them when I'm recording, but I don't use them when I'm playing any other time. Because we'll have to work on our muting of notes, don't we? So and that's all the guitars, and then the last one's just my main, like my preset, which is called Alive, which is in the preset pack. Oops. inside picking's a bit off today. There, it's back in-ish. That's the thing when you're doing economy picking, is like you've got to have the inside motion dialed in. And then I think just on the VXS headphones, I think I was just using them flat. Oh no, I haven't even got them on. All right, hold on. Voice has gone a bit weird. That's better. Right, everything's in this studio. All right, we're in here now. Right, so, and there we have it. How long have I been playing? I've been playing since I was 8 years old. Very young-ish. I need to turn these headphones down a bit. I think they're blaring. So, I suppose we better make something. That delays are laughing at. Probably too much. Right. So we have everything. And then the last thing that I've got is I'm using OX for the drums. But the main thing with OX is that I can see all of my one-shot sample library in one go here. So it's really easy for me to pull out different drums. One of the problems I was having with earlier templates is that I was sticking with the same drums and not changing them and like discovering other things. And the reason that was because everything's in separate folders. You know, you go to Splice, you download a pack, and it's got everything's like separated, you know. So you're going through folder after folder to try and get this, like a kick drum. With this, I'm directly there, and I can pick a sample folder, a sample library I like, and then I'm just looking at those samples, and I'm looking at all of the one-shots. Yeah, so as we're talking about guitars, the thing, so Greg, yeah, like I wish my picking were off like that. Right. Well, the thing is, the first lesson for me was I spent years. Not that I'm going to regret this. I spent years struggling to do inside picking, and then I realised I read somewhere something that like a few players like Paul Gilbert were like kind of saying that they were just like outside picking people and then they'd have a workaround for the inside motions. And then I thought, oh, well, that's great, because if they're doing it, I'll just pigeonhole myself. So then it was just like, well, I can't really, it's a bit like being left-handed and right-handed. I was thinking like along those lines. And I was thinking, right, well, I'll just be an outside picker. So outside picking I did for years. Of course, you still have to have inside, even though you're thinking you're an outsider, right? And then Troy Grady came along, and then there was all that thing about using different angles, and then I realised, right, that actually I can use different angles, and that's when the inside motion started. And then I did that, and then that sort of really happened when I suppose that, like, Thomas got me back into playing guitar. So I might as well just do that. Coming after practice. And then what happened is, just in sort of back end of November, well, there was little bits of economy emotions coming into my pentatonic playing. Just like, I can't even remember what it is. I can't even remember what the lick was. I can't remember what it is now. But there was a couple of pentatonic things which I now don't play, that had that bluesy sort of little kind of sweepy thing, like groups of five. I wish I could remember what it was. And then I started doing that, and then I realised there was a trigger point for me, because that was it. Then I started doing 5/1 scales in legato, and then that was really demanding for the legato, and I wanted to be able to practice that on acoustic guitar. So I was doing legato on acoustic guitar for a bit, which was like really painful. And then I was really wanting to improvise on these scale patterns. But because like I'm on an acoustic guitar for a lot of hours every day, I realised that the only way I can really do this without completely destroying my hands was to find some energy for the notes, and that was to pick them. Well, you can't like picking the 5/1s thing. I mean, it would you're not going to have much fun doing that, right? So, because of that, I thought, right, well, I'll have to do economy picking. So I started doing economy picking, and that's when it started. It started with doing these pentatonic shapes. And that's how it started. Then that was it. I was off. I was doing and then I thought, right, well, okay, it's a lot easier to ascend and descend just like big sort of scale runs. So that's my alternate picking. I have to think a little bit about that. But if I do economy, I don't. So you can start combining economy with alternate. It's like that's all alternate apart from the last one. So anything where I'm going across the strings really quickly, I'm going to do economy. And then you can start doing weird note groupings where every string change, it would normally, if you're alternately picking, it would be an inside and an outside. So like groups of 7. Something like that, really odd stuff. It massively helps. So to alternately pick that, it would be really, does that help with sweep picking? Well, it's bound to, really, because it's about crossing a string in one motion, isn't it? The only thing I would say the difference is with this is you need to practice your rest stroke on your plectrum, because what's happening, you can see that hand does this. That's the rest stroke, and that's because the picking motion crossing the strings is so rapid, you find that the picks actually get into the string before your fingers. So that's why there's a kind of rest stroke, very slightly. So that's like one of I mean, there's a few things. It's not like totally completely straightforward. It's like that's going to fix every problem. The other problems is the picking articulation. So then it was like well, my picking sounds different to my alternate picking, like when I was doing the economy. So then I had to think about that, and then that's when I started getting into well, I was already into planting, but then the note displacement, which is more like, rather than a picking action, it's more like a pushing action. But I think it's actually tied in really with planting. So in other words, I'm actually holding the pick quite loosely in my hand, but it's more of a pushing motion with the pick as opposed to a picking. Now, and I can pick really, really hard doing this. Like you can hear here. Now, you probably don't want to pick that hard. But it actually happens that, like now, through the economy picking, I've got an actual bigger dynamic range than I had with alternate picking. And it's a lot less effort. See, that's alternate, and you can see this hand is like lots of whipping, which like like motions to get around the strings when I'm alternate picking. So it's great. It's just, but then like what you find by doing the economy picking, so the big thing for me was then it's like I'm not, like I can play fast, right? But I'm not now thinking about the technique as much. So it's just down to you. I mean, I'm not terribly inspired with my guitar lead playing today, but I'm not thinking about the technique as much. So that means, you know, I've got more mobility, and I'm able to, about the fretboard, and I'm able to express ideas a lot better. So yeah, it will. I mean, it will help with sweep picking, but you know, I mean, one of the things. So there's things where you can combine the two things. So there's this really like nightmarish thing that I'll play. Now picking something like that's really hard, right? So you've got the sweeping, because it's like just little mini arpeggios. In fact, it's this is a G. I'll tell you what I'll do. Yeah, this is G major 7. But the problem is, right, you've got sweep picking, but then you've got alternate picking, and it's like 1 note, 2 notes per string. Here. So that's quite demanding to play something like that, you know. So that's like where you'd be combining the two things. But yeah, it will help you sweep picking, you know. However you're doing it. I mean, I tend to, a lot of my sweep picking is, it's always a mixture of legato. That's like completely sweet picking. Something like that. So it's a really handy technique to have. I didn't expect to be talking about economy picking, but that's cool. How long did you pick up the guitar again? Well, I was always playing the guitar, just I wasn't playing it in shredding anger in publicly. What I was doing is I was maintaining a bit of technique and just playing, getting through the day with it. I wasn't focused on improving or breaking any boundaries, to be honest. I was too focused on electronic music, which I still am. I've now just, just have to do the two things as best as I can. Yeah, so that's just the thing. It's the rest stroke. So you can practice that. So that pick just falls onto the next string, and then it plays it. And that's the motion. But the real strength of economy picking, for me, is the combination, right, of alternate picking, being able to alternate pick, and then doing it as being, like, it's totally lethal. Because you can easily turn your licks around. So there's a... Oh, where is it? So I did my research. I did do my research, Frank, and I couldn't find any of those. I couldn't find those trousers in any shop. So never mind. And my hairdresser wouldn't do a haircut like that for me either. But nevertheless, some very good information in here. Now, what Frank does, right, I'm sure this isn't literally the case, but I remember as a kid watching, being told about the economy picking thing, and I remember his, like, Speed Licks video, and I remember him talking you through a G major scale. So it would have been... which was like that. Now, the problem was when you got with it was when you get to the top, you have to have an even numbers of notes to turn it round. Yeah. So I can't think mentally, right? When I'm turning round, I need an even number of notes to turn something round so the picking's correct. So it's purely economy picked. So that's great if you got the mental capacity to do that. I do not have the functional mathematical skills to do it that quick. And then you'd have to then get to the bottom string to go back up, you have to start adding notes in. So you have to add the chromatic notes in. To start it again, to get the picking turned round. So this is why it's good to have alternate, because it just means you don't have to do that. You can just go up and down the thing. And then that's it. The other problem you'll have, right, which sometimes I get on a bad day, in fact actually quite often, I just get it every day, is like trying to keep the dynamics flat. Like today's not too bad. But like one of the problems you'll have is because we've got 3 notes per string. And actually Tom Quayle does a lesson on this, but it's on legato. Is because we're using 3 notes per string and then there's a change, it's very easy to fall into this triplets thing. Now, I'll do this and I'll be stuck like this for the rest of the day, but for the purpose of demonstration, this is what you don't want. Yeah. What we want is wanting everything to flow. That's the idea. And as you can see there, once I'm sort of, you know... quite quick, isn't it? You can play quite rapidly. But you have to keep those. You have to keep the notes, the tension, the dynamics quite even. I have a problem with getting focused picking on and upstrokes. On the upstrokes. And upstrokes feel weaker in the alternate picking. Right. So, like, there's little exercises you can just make up, Tanmay. So, if we look from a coaching point of view, right, I have a problem with getting focused, picking on the upstroke, right? So, you've actually, on an XY axis, you've targeted the problem. So, you know, there's like one of the things about guitar playing is actually learning how to practice, isn't it? And not many people, but no, there's loads of people who know how to practice. But then again, do they? I mean, I'm still learning to practice, all right? And you know, I'm really big on the inner game of music stuff, right? So, and of course, the coaching thing, I love problems. So that, you know, I have a problem, and when I look at problems in the text, I think, oh, I get excited. Problem, what's that? It grabs my attention. Anybody who puts problem in, I'm all ears. So on an XY axis, you have found and described the problem. So now what you need to do is find something where the problem's really bad. So play something, and then that's going to be your exercise, isn't it? So I don't know if you can describe to me like a little exercise you could do that's going to improve that upstroke. But just in short, right, anybody who's wondering about, yeah, there is already one in the game of music. But I have started teaching guitar. And actually, like, the style of teaching I'm doing it, you know, is this. It happens to be this very foundational thing. So again, it's a bit like coaching, isn't it? It's like everybody's playing licks and they're getting seduced by the what I'm finding is people are getting seduced by the fast licks, but actually the skimming across the surface of technique and not going. Everybody's going wide and they're not going deep into the foundational playing that you need. And we all do that. We all just want to play that lick. But actually what we need to have that raw foundational technique that we can apply to any situation that makes us mobile. That's my thing. Making guitarists mobile across a fretboard. So, so there's a couple of examples. And the other thing you need to do, Tanmay, as well, is the problem on the upstrokes. Now, there's one way that you can actually fix a problem, and we're probably going to be doing this today, talking about guitars. But I'll have to do music tomorrow. But we'll see how we go. I might get time for a splurge. So practicing. Yes. What was I going to say? So with one thing you can do is also when you find the thing that you're doing and it's got that problem in it, right? Don't try to play it. Just simply play the thing and observe what's going on and play it at different speeds. So play it as fast as possibly you can and play it really, really slow, and then find a mid-tempo and simply just play and observe with a completely blank head. A bit like meditation. And what you find is your brain tends to fix things at the lower level. That sometimes can like work really well. But it's this thing you have to get out of your head of not to try every pass to play it better. You just have to observe and allow your hands to do stuff. But now we can get into the kind of more nitty-gritty, really fixing the problem, almost like an engineer would. So, but before we talk about that, so 2 books are good. Well, one of them that should be your practice companion is The Inner Game of Music, and I think it's chapter 5 that I particularly like, which talks about all this observational stuff. So The Inner Game of Music, if you haven't read it or heard of it, it's kind of like my Bible in a way. But that book, before it became The Inner Game of Music, it was written by Timothy Galloway, and he wrote a book called The Inner Game of Tennis, and then there was a guy called Barry Green, who was reading The Inner Game of Tennis and The Inner Game of Skiing because he was like, he was playing tennis and skiing. And then he started applying the sports psychology to his bass playing, and he had big sort of gains from it. And because he was like quite a well-known bassist and lecturer, he got in touch with Timothy Galloway, and he said, I'd like to, I'm having all of these gains with music. Could we, it would be good to do a music version of this book? And they collaborated, and he researched this book over a number of years, developing different exercises and techniques. Now, The Inner Game of Music, why is it called The Inner Game of Music? Well, there are 2 things. We have the inner game and we have the outer game. Okay, so the outer game is all the stuff that's outside us, the physically holding a guitar and playing. But the inner game is actually our thoughts and feelings whilst we're doing this, which is like super important, So hence the observational thing. That's an inner gamer thing that we're applying to the outer game. Because what we need to do is we need to get rid of, that frustration. And the inner game of music, I apply it to when it's a big part of when I'm producing music. Because the problem we have is whenever we're doing something, even playing guitar, playing exercises, especially if we're not winning at what we're doing, it's very easy to just have all these negative thoughts like I can't do it, or all this sort of stuff. Or, if you're playing in front of people and you get the kind of shakiness and you get all nervous, this is all like an inner game thing, and this is what this book's really good at, like destroying all of that. So that's the inner game of music, yeah. So usually what I find is, it's based around a self 1 and a self 2 notion. So self 1 is the critical self that we have. So that's the crazy ideas that pop into our heads, like why you even bother practicing? You're shit. Just play up a blues scale and leave it at that, and everybody will like you. Stop shredding, right? Whilst you're trying to shred. And you might have these thoughts, when you're playing in front of people, and if you're thinking about your thoughts, right? Okay, you're not focusing on the music that you're playing, so you're going to be prone to mistakes, okay? But self 2 is the person who we need to be self 2, because that's performance mode, and self 2 doesn't have a past and it doesn't have a future. Okay, so there's no voice going, remember when you were like 8 and you tried to play in front of a load of people and you completely like failed. Well, now this situation, because I'm predicting it in the future, is going to happen. Okay, so if you keep going, right, then you're going to fail. Or it'll say something like, I'll get this one. It'll be, Tim, you spent ages playing that lick. You should play it now, when I'm trying to improvise. And then I'll go, and then I'll play it and I'll completely mess the whole thing up. Because you're designing into it. At that point, I'm not listening to the music. I'm listening to a voice which is telling me to play something completely inappropriate to what is actually happening in the room. So that's kind of what self 1 is doing. So self 2 isn't like that. Self 2 doesn't have a past, or a future. It's very much in the moment, and that's when you're fully listening to the music, and it takes practice. It's a sensory thing that gets you there. Practicing listening to music and focusing your attention back on the music and off the thoughts about the guitar is what you need to do. And there are a number of ways to get there. So we're talking about the sensory thing. There are certain things that I'll do, and it's all to do with something like, to get to self 2, because I'm doing like economy picking today, to kind of distract me back into playing, even though I'm just having a conversation with you guys, and I'm doing a little bit of shred at the same time, to distract me very quickly back into that and not mess it up. What I'm doing is I'm focusing on the pressure of the plectrum hitting the string. And I'm enjoying that, and I'm just observing that momentary push on the pick. Another thing I like to do, if I'm doing legato, is I like to feel the vibrations of the strings going through my fingers, especially if I'm practicing it. I try to see if I can get the vibrations to equally go up to the same bit of my finger. And another thing I'll do is I'll feel the bump that I get off my fingers through the guitar. So it's a very fine sensory thing, but to get there you have to completely focus on what you're doing. And it becomes just a really nice sensation. and you completely just drift off with this whole thing. And then you're in this wonderful land of practicing without your voice going, that was rubbish, do it again, do it again, do it again. Failed. So this way, it's just it's almost like meditation. That's why I'm so chilled out when I'm playing. So that's like in a game stuff, It's quietening that mind down. If we can quieten the mind down and get rid of the anxiety, we're in good shape, aren't we? So that's the first thing. So that's in a game. And then we've got the outer game. So a book that inspired me for the outer game is a book called Peak, and I can't remember who it's by. But Peak's a psychological study on elite performers, right? And what their habits are and how they get there and how you go beyond what is possible. In fact, there's another book, Rise of Superman by Stephen Kotler, I found very inspiring. So those two things, but Peak. So Peak looks at all types of people. It looks at London taxi drivers, because they've got like amazing memories of everything in London. You can ask if you don't know the street, you can ask a London taxi driver, that restaurant with the funny gargoyle on it with its tongue sticking out, and they'll know to take you there. It's really fascinating because when they're learning to be taxi drivers, I didn't know this, when they're training, they spend ages just driving about on mopeds, studying all the streets, getting familiar. But anyway, they are elite taxi driver performers. It does a study of Air Force One pilots. That's quite illuminating. And then it's got obviously musicians. But one thing they all have in common is there are two modes of practice: purposeful and deliberate. Now, this is really important because it's good to be aware of what you're doing at the time you're doing. So when we're purposely practicing, right, we're not really doing anything. The knowledge, yeah. So when we're purposely practicing, okay, and Des, you're a guitar teacher, you'll see this all the time. You'll see people doing mindless repetitions of something and it never really gets better. It's just up and down, repeating the thing, same mistake, same everything, except sometimes it'll go really well. They might get 3 in a row good, but there's no consistency to any of it. It might slowly improve over time, but you'll also develop your mistakes as well, potentially doing that. It's a bit like, I always give the example, if I went, all right, well, let's go out and play tennis, right? And we'll play bat and ball. So me and Des will go and play tennis, right? We'll go, right, okay, let's hit the ball at each, and we'll just hit the ball at each other, and we'll go, right, let's see how many we can keep it going for, and we might get 10. We'll go, wow, that's amazing, right? Let's celebrate and have a bottle of non-alcoholic beer because we did 10, right? And then we might get back to it, see if we can get 15, but we're not actually studying any technique. We're just trying to hit the ball backwards and forwards. So that's your purposeful practice, all right? So we're not really going anywhere there. We're not looking at trajectory of the ball, how hard we're hitting it, the hand technique, the angle, none of that. It's just slogging it back. You can have wine. Whilst Des gets drunk and I get bloated and then need the toilet because I had too much zero alcohol Kronenberg. So there we go. That is your purposeful practice. It's good at filling time in, and it's totally amateurish. So be aware when you're doing this. This applies to music production as well. Don't think for a second, right, that that's not an instrument, because it is an instrument. We can approach music, writing in the same way. It's deliberately practiced. But purposeful. So then we have deliberate practice, right? So deliberate practice. What are we doing with deliberate practice? Deliberate practice is a different beast altogether. So the guy who deliberately practices that you can see, break it down, is Troy Grady. He's the master. So he should have a PhD, really, for his work. I think there's something there, isn't there? So that study, because I just, it blew my mind when I first saw that, because I saw a guy who was approaching guitar playing like an engineer, and then he had these wonderful explanations and descriptions of what is happening. It's totally amazing, and I thought it was so good that actually the creative art side has moved out of the way temporarily, and everything's stripped down to an engineering problem. And that's where he's come up with the angles of the picking, because it's a simple. Yeah, he transformed me as well. So, and that's where we've got the angles, because it was a simple. It's right, basically, if you have the wrong angle and you try and pick, your pick gets trapped behind the string. So then you have to bump over the string to get to the next one, and that's when you get the awkward. So this would happen. This would be a thing I remember, is playing something and then the awkward bouncing motion happening, and then you start getting all shaky and nervous, and then that's it. It's game over. You're dead. So, but the problem of keeping that, the problem is you're trapped behind strings and you're trying to jump over the strings, because your hand kind of has, in a way, the best way I can describe it, is a bit of intelligence, and it'll try and get itself out of the way to not hit those strings. But you can. Well, it's interesting, that does total sense, but I've never considered it before, Troy. Yeah. I was angling because I was an outside picker, so I'd angle one way, and I didn't cotton on that if I angled the other way, that actually I'd be able to do the inside version. But this is why I'm not an engineer. Yeah. If I built a bridge, it would be upside down. Right. So, IKEA furniture. I'm really bad at building IKEA furniture. I'll always miss something, or a drawer will not shut, or some crap like that, right? Anyway, but, the angle thing, I totally get what he's saying. But this is a great example of the deliberate practice, okay? Because we're zooming in, and it's the bouncing motion, so we need a way of smoothly getting over the strings, and all you do is just angle the pick, and that's it. And your pick will glide across the strings. So now it's just a question of practicing that minute motion, isn't it? So, and this tan may help you. So your problem is the upstroke. So it's an inside motion. So just pick. So all the trouble you're going to have is going to be crossing the strings. So it just makes sense to do 2 notes and get used to that. So there's two things I'm doing. Practicing it and then running it. And that's how you do it. And that would be a deliberate practice technique. So just breaking things down small. That's all you're doing. And then coming up with some sort of solution and running with it. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. Well, that was fun talking about practicing. Any more questions? We're on a roll. Have I missed something? Those delays. There's too many of those delays, really. That's the sound I use for live, actually. Unlocking the Secrets of Synthwave Shredwave by Hutch. Yeah, there's the two things going on. The multidisciplinary here. Again, it's not just synthwave, isn't it? Because I can produce in a number of styles, but it's all the same thing, isn't it? It's all the same thing going on. Let's write something. Right. So I've got some drums. Let's have a listen to the drums. Where's my drums? Well, and then I suppose the thing is just to mess about with something. Alright, now. Well, that was emotional. I was into that. Right. Don't know what to say now. Where did all that come from? I had quite a nice weekend. Something's trying to escape. It's a metaphor for something. Right, so we've got 8 minutes to go. I can hear the missus upstairs shouting at child to get ready. But any questions with that? So I think what we need to do is just quickly bounce a version of this out. So I'll just quickly put this into Ableton. Okay, and we'll save and bounce. Right, and there we go. Tell you what, there's a bit of upstairs noise going on, so I'm just going to record it. Oh, it's not there now. I would have used that to like glue my drums together. Anyway, yeah, thanks, Greg. So yes, Stanley, the bass, it's a great way to write. So I'm quite free to write. However, I'll be replacing the bass as we move through the machine on some of these. So I'll be using a live bass, but I've got a proper like sampled bass. It's called groove bass, and I'm going to be using that. The reason I don't use it early on is because it's easy to write the parts on guitar for me, and more inspirational, and more instant. So that was good. And then the cool thing about this is I can really feel what I was wanting, that a style emerging that's me. You know, I can feel certainly my indie influences coming through, and like now it's just a question of like, how do I get the shredding to really gel with that? But we're not too far off. I mean, it's you know, if I keep going like this, definitely a style's going to emerge. And you know, as I always say, the way to quality and finding your unique identity is through quantity and unedited thinking. I really tried hard not to stop what I was doing, and just to loop it and take my time, not worry about being boring. That was another thing that went really well. I wasn't worried about being boring. I was happy just letting things loop about, mess about. Think of it like a performance, but also, you know, it's like a free ride is what you're thinking. So, and then it was really, then the interesting thing was then I decided to make a sound halfway through this, and I pulled out, I have this on the Rabia plugin. There's this like little synth patch I have that I made, which I can just shove in the front end of the McRocklin, and then I've got my kind of synth lead thing, and that's what was making that epic big melody thing. So there's a couple of things there that I'm finding fairly unique. I like doing like melodies where I'm just modulating it on a wah-wah pedal just to make it interesting, instead of using vibrato, just altering the note, the dynamic of the note just through a wah-wah, but not using the wah-wah in a really obvious way. And obviously that synth patch worked really, really well. And then just this general sort of indie sound, which I like. So I'm bringing that in. So it's just, I think it's just the problem. So we're talking about wins, problems, and opportunities. I like problems. The problem is just getting the shred to feel a little bit more honest with this music. But that's just something that'll take time. So it's going good. Right. So that's me done for today, and I'll see you all bright and early tomorrow, or if it's evening, you know, and you're going to sleep. What a wonderful way to fall asleep, with me hammering away on a guitar. Right, I'll see you guys tomorrow then. All right, bye.